Somewhere in your backyard, there is enough space to build a protein system that has fed entire villages for over 2,000 years. One that costs less than a weekend camping trip, needs no feed, no vet, no permits, and once it starts, never stops. Most people walk past that space every single day without knowing what it could become. Today, that changes. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to learn how a single installation, a hole in the ground, the right fish, a few plants, and a handful of ducks, creates a self-regulating food system that produces more protein per square foot than cattle ranching. This system once defined the landscape of an entire civilization, survived wars, banned by emperors, buried by the industrial food industry, and quietly forgotten in the West. By the end of this video, you will understand why it disappeared, exactly how it works, and how to build it yourself for under $600. Around 3,500 BC, along China's Yellow River, farmers noticed something remarkable after seasonal floods. Carp were trapped in low-lying depressions. If you deepen those hollows and reinforce the edges with clay, the fish stayed, reproduced, and could be harvested whenever food was needed. That was not farming yet. That was observation, partnering with what the land already wanted to do. By the Shang Dynasty around 1600 BC, managed fish ponds were already integrated into agricultural plots. By 475 BC, a statesman named Fan Li, who had retired from politics to raise fish, documented these methods in a treatise attributed to him, the Yang Yu Jing, the world's earliest known manual on aquaculture. Then, during the Tang Dynasty in the 7th century AD, something unexpected happened that made the system even more powerful. The emperor's family name matched the word for common carp. Out of reverence, or superstition, he banned carp farming empire-wide. Farmers had relied on carp as their primary protein for 1,000 years. Faced with crisis, they were forced to innovate. They began raising multiple species simultaneously in the same pond. Bottom feeders, midwater filter feeders, surface grazers, and plankton eaters, each filling a different ecological niche, none competing, nothing wasted. A crisis became the world's first true polyculture system, and it was more productive than anything that had come before. The pond is not just fish. Yeah, the fish are one piece of a 4-part living system, and understanding each piece is what separates a productive pond from a green puddle. The first piece is the ducks. In traditional Chinese polyculture, waterfowl were always integrated. When ducks swim, they stir bottom sediments, releasing nutrients into the water column. Their waste adds nitrogen, which feeds algae, which feeds zooplankton, which feeds small fish, which feeds larger fish, while the ducks simultaneously eat insects, aquatic plants, and small organisms. Every action feeds something else. A small flock of 3 to 5 khaki Campbell ducks, one of the most productive breeds, can produce between 750 and 1,700 eggs annually. Ducks with access to a healthy pond also forage a significant share of their nutritional needs from it, cutting your feed costs considerably. Yet the second piece is the plants. Aquatic vegetation is not decoration. Cattails along your pond's shallow edges act as one of the most efficient biological filters on Earth. Their roots pull excess nitrogen and phosphorus from the water, preventing algae blooms. Water lilies provide shade that lowers temperature and reduces summer evaporation. Submerged plants like hornwort release oxygen around the clock, critical for fish health. Floating duckweed is remarkable. Under good conditions, it doubles its biomass in under 48 hours, and your ducks will eat it as fast as it grows. Research into closed aquatic systems has shown that plants can remove up to 90% of the nitrogen waste produced by fish. The water stays clean, the fish stay healthy. You do almost nothing except observe. The third piece is the fish. For most of the United States, its bluegill and channel catfish are the easiest and most legal options. Bluegill require virtually no care. Stock them once, and they reproduce on their own, creating a self-replenishing food source. They reach harvestable size of roughly 6 to 8 inches in about 2 years. Channel catfish grow faster. With regular feeding, they can reach 1 to 2 pounds within 18 months. Without supplemental feeding, allow 2 to 3 years for the same result. Tilapia are even faster under warm conditions, reaching 1 pound in 5 to 6 months. And a small pond stocked with tilapia fingerlings can yield 40 to 50 pounds of harvestable fish in a single growing season. However, tilapia cannot survive water below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, must be harvested before winter. And are restricted or banned in several states, particularly in warmer southern states where escaped fish could establish in the wild. Always check your state's fish and game regulations before purchasing fingerlings. The fourth piece is the bacteria, the invisible workforce. Beneficial bacteria convert fish waste into nitrates that plants absorb. This nitrogen cycle is the backbone of the entire system. Once established, it balances itself. You are not managing a farm. You are stewarding a living ecosystem. A family-scale homestead protein system costs $400 to $600 to build, depending on whether you dig by hand or rent a small excavator. That breaks down to roughly $150 to $300 for an EPDM rubber liner, $20 to $50 for fingerlings, $30 to $60 for ducklings, and $50 to $100 for plants and supplies. And choose the lowest point on your property, where water naturally collects after rain. Mark out roughly 10 by 15 feet with a center depth of 4 to 5 feet. Create a shallow shelf 1 foot deep and 2 to 3 feet wide around the edges. This is your marsh zone where plants root. The deeper center gives fish a refuge during extreme temperatures. If your soil is heavy clay, you can line the pond the traditional way. Pack 6 inches of wet clay, compact it, and let it cure. If your soil is sandy or rocky, use an EPDM liner. They last 20 to 30 years and cost approximately $1 to $2 per square foot. Fill with water. If using chlorinated municipal water, let it sit for 1 week before stocking anything. Introduce life in stages. Start with the plants, cattails, irises on the shallow shelves. At the submerged plants in the deeper sections, duckweed floating on the surface. Wait 2 to 4 weeks. The plants need to root. Beneficial bacteria need time to colonize every surface. After a month, add 2 to 5 ducks. Within days, the pond activates. The water may cloud slightly as ducks stir the bottom. This is the ecosystem finding its rhythm, not a problem. After another month, introduce your fish. As a starting point, stock around 50 fingerlings per 1,000 square feet of water. Adjust up or down depending on species and whether you plan to feed. They will disappear into the depths. Do not add more. They are there, growing in the cool, dark water. For the first 6 months, your job is almost nothing. Watch the ducks, check water clarity, pull excess duckweed, top off water during dry spells. By the end of year 1, depending on species, you will have fish approaching harvestable size. Your ducks will begin laying within 5 to 7 months. 3 ducks can realistically produce 750 to 1,000 eggs in their first full laying year. By year 2, fish reproduce on their own. By year 3, you are simply harvesting from a living system that has woven itself into your land. In the 1960s, during early concerns about food security, researchers at Auburn University in Alabama, led by fisheries scientist H.S. Swingle, began studying those ancient Chinese methods. They built test ponds, some as small as 1,000 square feet. The results were documented and published. Well-managed small ponds, using supplemental feeding and basic fertilization techniques, could produce up to 350 pounds of fish per 1,000 square feet annually. To put that in perspective, a single acre of cattle pasture supports less than half a grazing animal and yields a fraction of that weight in beef annually, with constant feeding, veterinary care, and infrastructure required. These small, intensively managed ponds produce dramatically more protein per square foot, with far fewer inputs. The research was published, cited by a handful of permaculture researchers. And then it stopped there. No government subsidies, no extension office programs, no agricultural colleges teaching it at scale. Consider that the industrial meat industry in the United States is valued at over $200 billion annually. A system that lets a family produce their own protein from a backyard pond, permanently, for the cost of one weekend's groceries, competes with nothing. Because it is not part of the supply chain at all. What cannot be sold is not promoted. What cannot be patented is not funded. And what feeds you without depending on anyone else? That knowledge gets buried slowly, quietly, and thoroughly. In most states, ponds under 1 acre need no permit. Channel catfish and bluegill are legal nearly everywhere. Check your state fish and game website for species rules. In most cases, you do not need to ask anyone's permission to build this. Water, sunlight, a hole in the ground. the patience to let biology do what it has always done. The pond is waiting,